Hello, my name is Thomas Marsh. I'm a professional artist. I'm primarily a sculptor, but that involves drawing, and I have a lot of background in painting as well. In fact, my first sculpture commission was nearly 50 years ago. I would like to present to you some of the most basic aspects of drawing. And when we start with drawing, we have to think about our materials. And some of the most basic things we have that you can almost always find in your home would be a pencil and a piece of sandpaper and paper. Paper might not come in the form of a professional drawing pad, but just plain old computer paper is fine. So most of you would have a pencil like this, perhaps a piece of sandpaper, I'll explain that in a moment, and a piece of computer paper, and then you can do professional drawings if you wish. This explanation is going to be geared to the youngest among you who love to draw. In fact, what small child has never just spontaneously picked up a pencil or something, a crayon, and made a little masterpiece? What I would like to do is introduce some ideas about drawing. And now I'm going to address those very young people directly. When we start in a drawing, it is a possibility to hold a pencil like you're learning to write, but it's also a possibility to hold a pencil like this, where you can move your whole arm when you draw. And I'd like you to think about that. If the pencil gets dull and needs sharpening, ask your parents to help you. If you don't have a traditional pencil sharpener, you can use a piece of sandpaper. Place the sandpaper on a hard surface and rub it back and forth. Because the pencil is made of wood, the sandpaper sands away the wood, and you can be left with a very beautiful tip on the pencil. So the most basic lesson of drawing is to draw something that you see. And one of the simplest things to draw from is the form of a cylinder. You have cylinders in your home. They come in the forms of soup cans or salt boxes, cornmeal boxes, oatmeal boxes. Those are all cylinders. How do you draw a cylinder? First of all, think of two straight lines, which are vertical. I'm going to give you a little vocabulary list that your parents can help you with. And those two straight lines need to be parallel. Vertical. And parallel. Now these two lines I just drew by hand. They may not be perfectly straight, nor exactly the same length. So what we often do in drawing is to sketch. We repeat lines to help straighten them out or get them to be more or less the same length. That also darkens them somewhat. Well, this is still just a pair of lines. How do we make that a cylinder? First of all, a circle is something I'm sure you understand. But imagine taking a circle and flattening it a little bit so it becomes an oval. Now there's a technical term which you can learn in a very advanced vocabulary called an ellipse. An oval or an ellipse is just a slightly flattened circle. So let's draw one. If you could imagine a circle at the top of these lines, let's flatten that as if we could take it and compress it. When looking at a cylinder, the cylinder you might have in your home, if you look very carefully, that circle will appear to you as an oval. And when you look at the curve of the lower edge, could you imagine seeing the back side of it as if you could see through that like an X-ray? That will be a slightly wider ellipse. But I'm going to darken the front edge more so that this back is as if you could see through it. And then you can erase that away. Now we're almost finished. This top ellipse needs some adjusting, and that's the beauty of working with a pencil and eraser. When I step back and look at it, I see that it's tipped a little bit. That's not natural. It needs to be horizontal. How can I make that work? That's complicated. Well, first, I'll draw in a sketching manner what looks to me to be a horizontal line. Sometimes you'd have to step back a little bit to judge that. Sometimes you have to erase a little bit to make it look right. And once you have a horizontal line through the middle of that ellipse, then you can see what needs to be adjusted. This side needs to come down a little bit, and this side needs to come up a little bit. And when you're all finished with this stage, then you can go around the whole cylinder and darken some of these lines. One last hint. The front line, the leading line of that ellipse, if you make it darker, and the back line, if you make it lighter by erasing a little bit of it, will make this look more three-dimensional. And the very last thing, you can erase away some of these, what we call construction lines. And there you have a cylinder.